So if you recall, last time we were discussing in our second session, we left with ethical decision making and 3C: clarity, consistency, and completeness. We talked about three factors which play a very vital role in making one's choice. Because clarity, that means that people can describe what they are choosing. So there has to be some kind of justification, and clarity plays very vital role. Till the time you are not clear about the situation itself and what role you can play, what kind of decisions you can take, the solution will not be appreciable by majority of the people. So that's why we have to be very careful. We have to develop all clarities, and then we should take a choice. So consistency is there. We should be consistently taking some decisions, and should be able to justify those. So what kind of decisions we had been taking, there has to be consistency with it. And last was completeness. So we should keep in mind all stakeholders when we are trying to take some decisions. I'll share this slide. And this we started and we ended on this particular slide. So let me share this slide with you. This was just to make you recall that the last topic that we discussed was this is our module actually, ethical issues and practices of workplace, and we were talking about ethical decision making. These were three C's which I was saying: clarity, consistency, and completeness. And a bit of elaboration was there on these three, and here we ended. So we'll continue from here and we'll see. So clarity, consistency, and completeness. As we move to the last point here, completeness. Ethical decision making is complete when it takes into account everyone directly affected by a decision and other important characteristics of the situation itself. So you have to cater to all situations that are leading you to dilemma where you need to take some kind of decisions, and make sure that all affected party, we should be taking decision in such a way that all associated party are benefited. You may not please everybody, but you may not be able to please everybody, but make sure that there is no say damage being done to the certain profiles whom you are not able to please, and whatever decision you are taking is going to benefit all stakeholders around. So that's what is say the last point, completeness. Moving ahead, it says ethical challenges provides information and activities to help individuals or groups think through basic ethical concepts and considerations. Ethical challenges will not provide specific answers for the specific dilemmas that people face, but will help readers bring to conscious awareness some understandings that help in thinking through critical issues and ethical issues also. So they are not providing you the answers, but ethical challenges are there and we need to understand. So this particular topic was about understanding the ethical challenges. It is not giving any solution to any situation that we are into, but we will have some kind of guidance that how we should be working when there are ethical challenges faced by us, especially when we are part of the organizations. So, certain difficulties are always there out of, we have to come out of these difficulties and make sure that whatever difficulties are there, if we cater to the requirement, a specific requirement of situation at that point of time, we will go into some kind of decision making, and that decision making should be to benefit to everybody. So we need to know difficulties, and that's what we are proceeding. So difficulties in ethical decision making, if you see, it involves a great degree of value clarity. Uh, and ethical decision making is much more than what you generally do in daily life. You may be taking decisions in your financial domain, maybe the inventory management, maybe the production management, other function of the business organization. But ethical decisions are much more. The reason behind that is they cannot be coded. That's what is the first point here. That cannot be coded. So you cannot mechanize the decision making process. They cannot be coded. There's nothing black and white. If something is black and white, then it's really not the decision making, because decision making is always about uncertainty about situation, and what outcomes will be there, uncertainty about that. Though we want that the outcomes of any decision, whether ethical or business decisions, whatever we are taking, that should be positive, but not always it is positive, you know. All plans are some kind of decisions. So if you try to apply some planning, you have an outlook that, oh, this is going to bring in some success to us, but not necessarily it is going to do that. Otherwise, there should have been no business plan that have failed. So, you know, we cannot guarantee that what is going to be the outcome. Only thing is that our approach remains positive, that things are going to be good after implementation of or applying such a decision. So what makes ethical decision say so difficult? Why cannot ethical decisions be programmed like other decisions? What leads to dilemma in ethical decision making? That's what we are going to discuss. So, you know, the first and foremost thing when we are taking decision in the organization, especially the ethical decisions, organizations, when you see organization comes from organizing. Organizing is some kind of setup that you are creating, you know, and any setup that you create in business organization is of people. And that's why when you are a manager, you are working in any of the organization, whether yours or you are working as an executive somewhere in some corporates, in any of these cases, you know, it is more of people who are working towards achieving a particular target. So they align their goals with the goals of the organization and they commit as a person belonging to that organization, and they make sure that the outcomes are positive. But these people, when you talk these people as individual entities, they come from various domains, and that's why there could be conflict of interest. And that's what is our further proceeding, which talks about difficulties in ethical decision making. And it says that an organization is an amalgamation of various individuals, and there is a conflict of interest at the personal level between these members. Each one is concerned about his benefits. That's what you see in various organizations. There's a generic term which we use in organization which says that politics. Somebody is playing politics. Somebody is playing politics. But you know, politics is a broader understanding of something which is happening to one of the employees, uh, which is, as per him or her, is not in interest of him. So, you know, there are people, there may be subordinates, there may be superiors. Superiors are trying to apply some policy. They may be playing gray shades. Even the colleagues, the peer group may be having some gray practice against a person and so on. So this could lead to grievances. But, you know, when it comes to decision, we are talking about, it is difficult to take decisions because there is always a conflict of interest at a personal level between these members. As the point says, each one is concerned about his benefits and neutral or opposing to the benefits or good of others. You also called there is a egoistic approach. So many a times it is that it is as per the grooming which person may have. Person may not like somebody being apprised. Person may see that oh, somebody is apprised out of the way without knowing actual intricacies of it. Which happens, which may not happen. I'm not contradicting. It is not happening. It happens because ethics is like it's everywhere. So people are into ethical practice. People are not into ethical practice. But here we are only talking about. We are only concerned about conflict of interest. So, you know, this conflict of interest leads to situations that are morally challenging to the managers who want to be moral and righteous to his own conscience and serve the interest of the organization. But there are clashes happening, so he won't be able to do it. Here, the dilemma arises on deciding upon the course of action. What action a person should be taking, even if it is about resolving a conflict between people, or if you see if people are not very much having confidence over policy of the organization, then deciding a course of action is very, very difficult. So that's why this ethical decision making becomes difficult. Reference point 1. In the second case, a conflict arises when there is a distinction to be made about facts and values. This, if I say, is implying to a situation where a manager confronts what is and weighs the same against what ought to be, what we are and what actually we should be. So there is always a kind of doubt. We are into dilemma. And in business organizations, if you see, an organization may spend lots of resources upon developing research and development. This is part of it, and maybe upgrading a certain product or a service. And this R&D, look at this way, this R&D which companies do, they require investment of money, investment of human hours, and so on. Everything has a cost to it. But this cost which is happening is added on to the cost of the product. I'm trying to explain this with the business example. So cost of the product will be added on, and if it gets reflected in the final price of the product, this increase in price may be looked upon as exploitative by the end user. End user may say, oh, you have just for no sake, you have risen the cost of it. And this happens in the market, two products you see of similar configuration, but price of one is higher. What is behind it is the quality R&D, which is there, so that the product does not develop any glitch while it is being used. But who looks into that factor? People may simply blame, oh, this company always produces product which is of higher cost. What we are trying to discuss here is whenever you are taking a decision, whenever you are rating somebody, as we rated a company that, oh, this company is having a similar configuration in the cell phone, but the cell phone of this company is 5,000 higher than the market price. Why is it so? Why we should be buying this product and so on. So when you are taking a decision, there is a distinction, as the point says, there is a distinction to be made about facts and values. Even you are assigning job roles to the people, so you will not make everybody a clerk. A person should be treated differently as per the competencies, what you map in your HRs, and as per the knowledge levels of the people. So who will get the promotions, who will not get the promotion? There has to be justifiable reason behind it. You should check all facts and figures. Who is contributing more towards the yield, who is not, and so on. So all these needs to be valued. And that's why decision making is difficult, ethical decision making is difficult. Yet another difficulty, if you see, arises in cases when there is a fine line dividing the good from the bad, or the evil, and in situations when there is a difference of opinion of what is morally permissible and what is not. That's what is your point 3. A case example which I gave in first session also was of Nestle. And Nestle is a very renowned company, but what happened with it in Kenya? Because they didn't had their own water plant, and what they used was contaminated. But the debate is, should they be checking it as per their quality control? They should be there, should not be. The house is again divided into two. But then what is permissible? What is morally permissible? To what extent you can produce those products without testing? And when this product, Nestle infant formula, was there, and a number of, say, babies, newborn, got infected with it. But and the same formula was proving very, very good in other countries. It was next to a life-saving drug because it is giving the nourishment to the kids. But then what happened there, just because of a lapse in testing, and whatever was provided to them by somebody, that contamination of water was there, which was used to develop the formula, and ultimately many of the kids fell sick. So many people say, oh, why should be they testing it? It should have been done by somebody else, the supplier of it. Wherein few say, oh, that's a big company, it should be doing it. So what is morally permissible and what is not? There is always a debate about it. And that's why whenever you are taking a decision, you sometimes are not clear what you should be doing, what should be done by others, where should be the quality control and so on. And that's why the problem was faced by even Nestle. So these are 3 points which talks about ethical decision making and why it is difficult. We started with one assumption. It's actual, not assumption. It says that organization is an amalgamation of various individuals. So there's conflict of interest. There are two other points along with it, which I tried to explain. Hopefully you've got it. Moving ahead, well, it says in current uncertain time, first it is almost impossible to predict the outcomes of the decision making. Why there is uncertainty in decision making? That's what it is saying. So uncertain period is there. Again, I'll repeat it. It's almost impossible to predict outcomes of decision making. And if you see first point, one of the principles of ethical decision making assumes that the outcome of a decision is known and that the decisions that results in greatest good for greater number of people is the best. And we have already seen theories like in chapter 1, theories like utilitarian, theories like um, hedonism and so on. So, there are perception that you will take some decisions. And this decisions is going to have both positive and negative impact on the people. So to what extent it is going to have negative impact and to what extent it is going to have positive impact, that needs to be decided. It makes you uncertain. In current times also, as we discussed in previous session, I discussed in previous session with some other group, it was about vaccination. So this vaccination, this development of vaccination with limited testing that has been done may have some negative impact. We are not knowing. We may not be knowing. Few cases we have observed that was of black fungus and white fungus and so on. But since if we become a skeptic about it, if we become a skeptic about the negatives, then it may be possible that the complete population may die. We will not release the medicine. But since we know that it is going to have positive impact on majority of people, so we know that it is going to serve the people, as the point says, greatest good for great number of people, the solution is the best. So we took a decision. Mankind took a decision that to save somebody, or save the larger number of people, we should be out with the medicine. It may have the negative impact, which we say thought of, and we already had the treatment for it. So black fungus and white funguses, we already had the treatment of it. And how many people got impacted? That was very nominal ratio compared to larger people. So again, there is a kind of uncertainty. There could be kind of dilemma. People may very well say that you were unethical. Why you were unethical? Because you didn't did complete testing. So why a particular product is having a negative impact? This was about medicine. I may tell you other examples also about IT infrastructure. There's something called informed consentism. So when you are downloading a particular software, it very well tells you that it is going to have access to this particular thing, that particular thing, and so on. There are terms and condition. And as per IT regulation year 2000, any company which is issuing a software to be used by end users, that has to categorically define the negatives and the positives that the company is having, that the software could have, that the technology could have. And that's why in terms and condition, which we as an end user generally agree for, we do not read those terms and condition. It mentions what could be the negatives of using a technology in such a way. So it mentions, but in totality, the positives are being seen far more compared to the negatives. And since it has been assumed that this is going to add some value to the end user, that's why it should be launched. So that's what is the point one all about. And if you see, practically anticipating the exact outcome of a course of an action is impossible. And this uncertainty is again at the root of all difficulties in ethical decision making. So, I was discussing about the cases that's related to the age and the risk that we take. So in the initial years of your career, you may very well mm, take more risk compared to the parents. Your parents will not like to diversify now, but you can very well diversify. Why? Because, when we are going into a new business, when we are trying to start something, we cannot guarantee that it's going to be successful. There could be failures that we can face. But if you, in your age, at the age of 20, 21, 22, 23, you go and start a business, even if you fail, that's not going to impact because the liabilities on you are very, very less compared to the parents, where the liability on them is very, very high and risk is also high. If there is a failure, the impact of that risk is going to be very, very high. So we cannot anticipate the exact outcome. And if at back of the mind we have a belief that this is going to fail, what if this fails? If that question come, then few people will not be able to take those risks. So, diversification in businesses can be related to this particular point, and this could also be taken as a one mentorship point. Well, if you want to start your business, please start. And thing is that, God forbid, I pray this should not happen to anybody, but God forbid if you face a failure, you still have a time. You still have a time to recover or start a new thing, a new vertical, a new kind of business. But a person who is in age group of 50 years will not be able to start new thing after that failure. So make sure that you do it, because you may be, even if you face unsuccess in initial time, it should not happen. But even if it is there, still you are left with 35 years of professional life where you can more diversify and start new things. Okay. And lastly, if you see this point, ethical standpoints of organizations and their critics are opposite and based on an entirely different set of reasons. And that's everywhere. You see parliament, there's a governing a group and there is opposition, and they are not aligned with their thoughts. There's always an opposition which is coming. So even in organization, there will be critics, and they have their ideologies and they'll oppose each other. Here in organizations, if you see, the ethical arguments made to justify intentions are by and large incompatible. What one is saying, the other is totally different of that. Business organizations, if you see, if some organization is producing some kind of good or into some kind of operations, then if they're doing something, so an environment protection foundation, which may be existing as independent body, may criticize the operations of the organization on grounds of this particular organization polluting the environment. On the other side, the organization may justify itself by saying that it is adding more value to the society and to the individuals' lives by making those products and making people comfortable using those products and services. So they are adding on values, first to the society, second to the economy, because business is generated, and there may be other organization. This particular organization may be said. Uh, Putting off its byproducts into some river, etc., and maybe an environmental foundation, a setup somewhere, maybe criticizing this organization. And that's why it becomes a bit difficult, because I could be on the side of opposition, I could be side of the organization, and I may have my own belief based on whom I'm supporting. This is also integral part, and we see this right from our parliament, as I've said, to any organization. There's always a criticism which is coming up. So moving beyond this, well, if you see here, there are 6 points being given, 5 points. So there are a few points which have been given here, and this could be taken as a guide to ethical decision making. And what it says is the first point is again very, very important. It says that the heart of a good business is not profits. Or even if you say the best of breed products and service which companies offering. If you see this, these products and services, those are results from what lies at the core of good business, and that's good ethics. So beyond producing good products and services, there are some duties of you to towards socio-economic environment. So you may be felicitating the stakeholders, the rights of his stakeholders, including rights of employees, rights of customers, and so on. And that could be taken as one ethical conduct from side of a company, which actually leads to many people at being attached to the company and adding on value to it. So it's not about the profits. Profit will flow in. Profits are secondary. What you do is that's what this point says, and that's what ethical theory says, that you should be ethical in your conduct. You should take ethical decisions which protects rights of every stakeholder associated with you. So the core remains good ethics, and that's what is the point two. Uh, Point one. Seeing point two, unethical behavior has derailed companies across industries. So you should keep this in mind, and you may explore what was Enron doing and what happened in Enron and so on. There was company in Bhopal, and there was Bhopal gas tragedy. I do not know if you have heard about that or not, which actually led to death of many people. Because one poisonous gas leaked out, and there were deaths happening. It was similar to the nuclear dropping by US in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So they could not even rise in the morning, because this happened after midnight, and people who went to sleep remained slept till eternity. So there are companies which should be performing their duties ethically. They should do all maintenance, etc., ethically. But if they are not doing, if they are unethical in that way, so the company was uprooted from Bhopal. It is no more existing anywhere in India. You know, you can very well dig into these examples. Please go through it. It's I'm taking this as a lecture session, but it's a tutorial class. So I'm giving you directions also, how you should see, what you should see. So, energy giant Enron, what happened to it, Bhopal gas tragedy, I just talked about it, and so on. So see, even there was some ethical, I'm not giving you exact points here, but there was some ethical questions asked about Uber a few years back. Please find out what these are, because these unethical behaviors, as the point says, has derailed companies across industry. So what if difficulties Uber faced at that point of time? Please find it out. Coming to Alak point, next point, and this is few areas cause more harm in business community than when businesses lack an ethical foundation. So there's one more thing. Most people would agree that having good ethics is important. Um, It's when people lose sight of proper ethical behavior that the problems and issue begin. So make sure that you have an ethical outlook when working as a manager. As a result, there is a continued need for business leaders around the world to uphold the highest ethical standards. And uh, if I combine this with the last point, despite the negative headlines, if you see, the reality is that people still look to top executives and key managers in the business for leadership and guidance. So when you are part of the organization, you are being viewed by your subordinates that what actions you are doing. Those are ethical or unethical, and the treatment of you as a boss is also based on the way you yourself are acting. In addition to that, at the lower level, if anybody does something, it will not be questioned that much outside the organization. But I once gave you example of Mr. Tata and so on. That means he has impressed me um, by his activities that he performs, and it is always a fact that the managers, the top level management is always being seen as a caricature, some kind of a standard, some kind of norm based on which other people around will also going to behave. So they become a model, and that's why it is very, very important in ethical guide. It is very, very important for top level management to work not only efficiently but ethically also, so that the people within the organization can look up to them, that oh, this is a standard of the organization and it is expected from us. And even people outside the organization frame you as one standard of ethics, and they believe that whatever this organization is going to do is actually right. So that's how it is, and that's how you build the trust. That's how you build the trust. So building the trust inside and building the trust outside, that is integral part of it. And that's what is the point here. So the primest, if we go across this, the primest of the question today is what is written as point one here. In an increasingly competitive and complex marketplace, we have talked about ethics, we have talked about guide to ethics and so on. But in an increasingly competitive and complex marketplace, where the pressure to succeed is intense and ever present, how can organizations and individuals resist the urge to cut ethical corners? So many times organizations go unethical just because they need to. They focus on bottom lines, and what is the first bottom line the organization is having? What is the revenue generated at the end of the day? So if that becomes a focus, then it's difficult. Many organizations find difficult to sustain with the pressure of producing the products, working successfully. Successful working here is not in terms of ethics. Successful working is here in terms of revenue that has been generated. So, over the decades, if you see, much research has been devoted to that question, as it applies to commerce, it applies to academics, it applies to medicine. You name any of the field, it is what is applied. How to build trust in that particular domain. And if you see into these researches, right, so like for 50 years, hundreds of years, these kind of researches are being done, right from the first mechanical automation when the industry 1.0 came. From that point of time, we are talking about the ethical conduct of the organization. And if you see these studies for such a long time, which have been present, studying ethics in various organizations, these studies have underpinned the development of numerous frameworks that what companies should be doing. But here, what we have done is we have taken one of the frameworks, which is the most talked about framework, which has a 6-step model. And that's what is on your screen. That can prepare business leaders and other professionals to face a range of organizational challenge and personal choices. So, this is not only applicable to decision making in an organization, but on personal level also. When you take a decision, you should be following this particular 6-step model. And just to add on, like this 6-step model, if you see in knowledge management also, Knowledge management is there to facilitate some kind of decisions, some kind of analysis. And in that too, these are being defined. So these are also part of DIKW model, which stands for data, furnished data, that is information. Uh, Repetitive information with experience is your knowledge, and application of knowledge is your wisdom. So DIKW knowledge, DIKW model, data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, which actually is part of wisdom. Here is applying the ethical practices. That's what is a wisdom, how you are going to cater to a situation with application of all ethics. Either you do it with application all ethics, or you have Jugaad platform with you. Do it without ethics. Try to fix in for short term, try to fix in some of the things into the criticality of a situation and come out of it. But you are not looking for a long term prospect of it. Ultimately, that will revert back to a company. So how you do it? First and foremost, it says know the facts. So before tackling an ethical issue, clearly define the nature of the challenge in which you are. Because if you are not into, if you do not know the nature of the problem that persists, on which you are asked to take a decision, in that case, even if you take decision, since you are not clear about the problem itself, the decision may go wrong. So the other steps which are there, like second, third, fourth steps, develop possible resolution, list the concerns. So you are not knowing the problem itself. The concerns associated with the problem, you cannot list it down. If you are not able to list down the concerns, then obviously you will not be able to create a solution. That's what it says. And the intensity of say ethical issue, once you are defining a nature of a challenge, you as a manager many a times see your comfort level. And many times it makes you uncomfortable because you get to know those particular aspects which are not good for you, which are not good for the company, which are unethically good for sorry, ethically challenging to a company, ethically challenging to yourself. So internally you come to know, oh, this really is wrong, what had been done by the company. So you become uncomfortable. And many a times the measure of the problem, the intensity that is measured viewing or mapping it to the uncomfortable level that you develop after studying a problem. And that's why knowing the facts are very, very important. Remember that. Second is when you have identified, when you have known the fact what actually is a problem, then you will identify the required information. You don't know, actually, you don't know what you do not know. And the problem exists if you are a decision maker, and if the problem existed, there was some limitation with your decision. That's why the problem is existing in today's date. So you need to take one more decision so that you overcome the problem. But if you would have the knowledge of this particular problem which has arisen due to your previous decision, you would have not taken that decision at all. It has been said, again I'm saying, what you don't know, you don't know. So there is a knowledge that you have, and there is a knowledge beyond what you know. And many times, I'll put it differently, when you know something and when you are trying to take a decision on that, that is the best possible application of your knowledge. But if it becomes unsuccessful, that means you would be requiring some additional set of knowledge which is existing beyond your knowledge. And that needs to be considered. So list the information you will need to obtain in order to make an informed decision from outside. Identify any assumptions being made about the specific ethical dilemma or challenge that you are into. A situation can change dramatically, once all the facts are known, and making a decision based on incomplete information can be a pathway to a disaster. So make sure that you have listed down in the first, you have known your facts, and second thing, you are listing down the complete information that is required for any kind of decision that needs to be taken in current situation. That's the second point. Third is you are going into a decision making, but you are being surrounded by the structures, a structure of your organization, a structure of society, a structure of governance, a structure of uh, economy, and so on. And that's why it's time to explore. If you come to point 3, list the concerns. So it's time to explore all of the factors that can influence a decision, that can influence decision making, and that can influence once decision is implemented. So a feedback is coming. So how the society is going to respond to you, that needs to be identified. Who are the people involved in the ethical issues? What are their individual concerns? What are the pertinent laws? You may be one kind of organization in a particular domain. You are a law agency. You cannot go beyond what is prescribed by law. You are a company which is into architecture. So there are certain architecture norms. Those needs to be adopted by you. You are a company secretariat. So there are protocols defined for you. So again, I say, who are the people involved in ethical issues? What are their individual concerns? What are the pertinent laws? What are the professional standards and code of conduct in a specific industry? Everything is listed here. So when you take a decision, the socio-economic, to place it differently, socio-economic and political setup plays very crucial role in influencing the decision and also in reverting back once decision is taken. The other point is develop possible resolution. So at this stage, begin looking in detail at potential resolutions and are likely outcomes of the problem that you are trying to resolve. And as I've said previously, also there is knowledge beyond your knowledge. So this is the time when you are developing the resolution, developing a solution to a problem. It is also an appropriate time to seek counsel from people with the knowledge and expertise in relevant areas. You put in some psychometric tests, etc. You come up with creative options. Those are beyond simple answers. So you are in the process of developing the resolution. And at this point, you may also have more than one resolution that we should be doing this and we should be doing that. I've already said, I think so, in your class or somewhere else, that system exhibits equifinality. There could be more than one solutions. So in that case, what you will do? You will evaluate the resolutions. That's the next point. So what are the projected outcomes for each potential resolution in terms of the total investment, not only the cost, but total investment, legality, impact on socioeconomic environment, the revert from socioeconomic environment. You also, it's like if I add on an example kind of thing. So how would your actions as a business leader be viewed if they become public? Whatever you are doing, would a customer or corporate partner still want to do business with the company uh, that has made this decision? That need to be seen, that need to be evaluated. If you are part of any, as I was saying, part of any specific domain where regulations are already being applied, as in case of law, architectures, and so on. So what would the industry guideline on that is? What is the governing board say on what you are doing? All these needs to be evaluated for a decision or solution that you want to implement. And once you are clear with one of the solutions, then obviously you will recommend an action that this particular solution is the most appropriate solution, which is in uh, line with the company's policy. And second, it is going to benefit the most largest number of people. As in previous few minutes back, we discussed about the example of vaccination, etc. So this is going to benefit almost all stakeholders. So business leaders have to make choices, and they have to decide upon which is the most appropriate resolution which they can have against some kind of problem which they are feeling. So ethical decision making will be there. It has always been said you should be committed always and taking a decision. Not making a choice is actually a wrong choice. So make some choice. have some a decision, take some decision. And when I refer to this model, business leaders must always work through these steps, and arrive at a decision if they hope to retain trust among people within the organization, which includes team members, uh, executives. There could be shareholders, consumers, there could be suppliers. You may have complete logistic chains. So you've come up with the resolution and second last step, and last step, any recommendation that is there must need to be implemented. Then only you will achieve the solution. Also, it has been said that simply choosing a course of action is not enough. It must be implemented. Who is going to take the action and when? That is also very, very important. What follow-up will be there? A feedback always is needed to be recorded, because simply implementing something is not good. You have to make sure that you record the data, even about vaccines. I'm giving that example because that's very recent, which has happened, and you may very well understand. So medicine was there outside, but still how effective that medicine is, that needs to be evaluated. So again, when people were coming for corona treatment, they were tested and they were asked, and their data was reviewed whether they were already vaccinated or not. So to what extent these vaccination is protecting the people, that data was recorded. And it has very clearly been said currently in situation what's happening in Kerala, the same medicine is being applied there. Though the cases are very, very high, but number of deaths those are happening are very, very minimal. And they may be happening because of some uh, premorbidities, and there may be some other complications also. But that's a result that a feedback needs to be taken. So who is going to take the action and when? What follow up? Again, I'm saying will be done by the company, by the person who is taking up that action. That has to be decided. And this is what, like, 6 points play a very, very vital role in implementing a decision. So whether it is for your personal purpose or for organizational purpose, make sure that these steps are being followed. Very easy to understand. Know your fact, identify what problem you have, identify the required information that is required for creating a solution, list the concern, what impact it is going to have, develop a possible resolution, keeping yourself in the purview of things which also creates a problem. Evaluate the resolution, as in say fourth step, you are going to have more than one solution. The best possible solution needs to be implemented, and then it needs to be implemented. So somebody has to implement it and take the feedback at that point of time. This actually is like, this is decision making life cycle, and you should keep this intact because this may be applicable to many of the subjects. I've already talked about knowledge management. So it's part of that, and that's why this particular model has been practiced the highest. The last slide for the day. Maintaining an ethical organization is no easy task. One of the most difficult tasks. But once you develop the guidelines, everybody has a knowledge about how to behave within the organization, within the premise, what is accepted out of the organization, are the individual goals aligned with the goal of the organization. So they are in sync. Everybody is working in sync with the objective of the organization. Uh, then it is going to be a bit easier. Maintaining is also not easy because as we have already seen in difficulty point, people comprise organizations, and to what extent people have their belief guided by their own backgrounds, there could be clash between individuality of two people. So how you are going to resolve? Many times, managers say, HR say that it's not a technical fight people are having. It's the personal fight people are having. But that personal fight actually is damaging the camaraderie of a team which they comprise. So it's a project team of 20 people, out of which 3 people are having a fight among themselves, just because their belief systems are very, very different. That fight may have started based on even challenging the education of each other, that you had been studying from that college, I'm far superior, my college had been this, and so on. Such a petty issue many times are being found, are recorded with HR when it comes to grievance handling. So people are putting their complaints. They are always they may land up with a grievance with somebody. That grievance could be with the superior. Superior's grievance could be with the subordinate. We have talked about many fits: organization to person, person to person fit, person to team fit, person to job fit, person to organization fit. So anywhere wherever the mismatch is happening, there could be a grievance which is developing. And that's why it becomes even more difficult, because many a times you are not dealing with the ethics of the organization itself, but you are dealing with the grievances which people may have, and those may be illusionary. Those may not be real. Those may be illusionary, just because one person had the perception against any of the setup, against the setup of a team, or any other person coming from a different background, or the organization itself. The person will register the grievance, and that's why the maintaining an ethical organization is not an easy task. That was the point says. So so it is essential to a long-term success, maintaining ethics in the organization. A business without an ethical foundation eventually run into trouble, as has been proven time and again. I've given you 2, 3 examples. Please follow those and see. And restricting this ethical practice, when we started with the discussion on ethical decision making, why there is a difficulty? Because organization comprise of people. I've just talked about the grievances which people may have, and how to handle the grievances. That's what we are going to discuss in the upcoming session. By that time, I take your rest. If take a rest and leave you. If you have any query, you are most welcome. Or we'll disperse and meet again in the evening session. Any query from your side? If there is any, please let me know.
No, sir.
Yuvraj. Okay, then we'll meet again late in the evening at 4:15, and we'll try to discuss upon remaining points. By that time,
Thank you, sir.
enjoy your day.
Thank you.
So I'll take your leave. Bye bye. Have a nice time.